The flashing red and blue lights painted my peaceful ranch in waves of color. That Saturday evening 3 patrol cars had pulled up my gravel driveway, their sirens silent but their presence unmistakable. I set down my coffee mug on the porch railing and walked out to meet them, boots crunching on the stone pathway. The lead officer approached with his hand resting on his utility belt, not quite on his weapon but close enough to make a point. "Sir, we received a 911 call about suspicious activity and possible trespassing on this property," he said in a professional tone. "We need to see some identification." I reached slowly for my wallet, keeping my movements deliberate and calm. "Officer, I'm Marcus Chen. I own this ranch. May I ask who called this in?" The officer checked his notepad. The caller identified herself as Karen Whitfield, president of the Willowbrook HOA. She claimed an unauthorized person was occupying this property and, refusing to leave, a smile tugged at the corner of my mouth. Karen Whitfield. Of course I knew exactly who she was, though she had no idea who I really was. This was about to get very interesting. "Officer, I purchased this ranch 6 months ago. I have all the documentation inside if you need to verify ownership." I handed him my driver's license. "And just so we're clear, this property sits outside the Willowbrook HOA boundaries by about half a mile." 2 weeks earlier my quiet Sunday morning had been interrupted by aggressive knocking at my front door. I'd opened it to find a woman in her early 50s wearing a blazer despite the warm weather, clutching a clipboard like it was a weapon. Her highlighted hair was styled in that particular way that screamed, "I demand to speak to your manager." "I'm Karen Whitfield, president of the Willowbrook Homeowners Association," she announced before I could even say hello. "We need to discuss your violations." I leaned against the doorframe, genuinely puzzled. "Violations? I think there's been a mistake. This property isn't part of any HOA." Her eyes narrowed behind her designer glasses. "That's where you're wrong. The Willowbrook HOA has expanded its jurisdiction to include all properties within a 1 m radius of our community borders. You'll need to register immediately and bring your property up to code." "That's not how HOAs work," I said with a patient tone. "You can't just decide to expand your authority over properties that weren't part of the original development." She thrust a stack of papers at me. "These are your violation notices. Your fence is the wrong color. You have unauthorized livestock, and don't even get me started on that barn. You have 30 days to comply or face fines." "I didn't take the papers, ma'am. I'm going to have to ask you to leave. This is private property and you have no authority here." Her face flushed red. "We'll see about that. I know people, important people. You'll be hearing from our lawyers." After she stormed off, I did what any smart property owner would do. I installed security cameras, lots of them high definition, with excellent night vision and audio recording capabilities. Something told me I'd need the documentation. The harassment started immediately. Fake violation notices appeared taped to my gate daily, each more ridiculous than the last. My mailbox was stuffed with official HOA correspondence threatening thousands and fines. Then she started getting creative. One morning I found her inside my property line taking photos of my horses. "Ma'am, you're trespassing," I called out, making sure I was in view of my security cameras. "Please leave immediately." She spun around with a triumphant expression. "These horses aren't registered with the HOA Livestock Committee. Each one is a $500 fine per day. There is no HOA Livestock Committee that has jurisdiction here." I said calmly, "You need to leave now or I'll have to call the police." "You do that?" she sneered. "Sheriff Thompson is my brother-in-law. Let's see how that works out for you." But I didn't call the police, not yet. Instead I kept documenting every trespass, every fake notice, every threatening voicemail. She left. I was building quite a file on Karen Whitfield. What she didn't know was that I wasn't just some random ranch owner. I was the senior vice president of development for Pinnacle Property Group, the company that held the master contract for Willowbrook HOA's legal services and property management. The situation reached its peak when I refused to register my horses with her made-up committee. That's when she decided to call 911 and report me as a dangerous trespasser on my own land, now standing in my driveway with 3 police officers. I watched the lead officer's expression change as he ran my license through his system. "Mr. Chin, I apologize for the confusion. You're clearly the legal owner of this property, but we still need to have a conversation with Ms. Whitfield about filing a false report." "Officer, I have something that might help," I said with a professional tone. "I've been documenting Ms. Whitfield's harassment for the past 2 weeks. Security footage, trespassing incidents, fake legal notices. Would you like to see it?" 20 minutes later the officers were viewing footage on my laptop, their expressions growing more serious with each clip. "Karen on my property without permission. Karen leaving threatening voicemails. Karen attempting to intimidate me with made-up HOA rules." "Mr. Chin, would you like to press charges for harassment and trespassing?" the lead officer asked. "Let me make a phone call first," I replied. "I think there's a bigger issue here that needs addressing." I pulled out my phone and Dialed a number I knew by heart. Janet, it's Marcus Chen. I need you and Richard from HR to come to my ranch immediately. We have a situation involving one of our contracted HOA board members. Yes, Karen Whitfield from Willowbrook. She just filed a false police report against me. I could hear Janet's sharp intake of breath. As president of Property Management Services, she reported directly to me. Will be there in 30 minutes. Mr. Chen, I'm so sorry about this. While we waited, I showed the officers more documentation, the fake fines, the manufactured violations, the attempts to extend HOA authority beyond legal boundaries. They took detailed notes and photographs of everything. When Janet's car pulled up, followed by Richard from Human Resources, Karen was with them. She'd been picked up from her home and told there was an urgent meeting regarding HOA business. The look on her face when she saw the police cars was priceless. It got even better when she saw me standing with the officers. What's going on here? She demanded with an indignant tone. Why am I being brought to this violator's property? Janet stepped forward with a stern expression. M. Whitfield, are you aware that Mr. Chan is the senior vice president of Pinnacle Property Group? The color drained from Karen's face. That's impossible. He's just some random person who bought a ranch that sits outside HOA jurisdiction, Richard added with a firm tone. Yet you've been harassing him, trespassing on his property, and now you filed a false police report. Do you have any idea how serious this is? Karen tried to recover, her voice shaking. I was just doing my job. The HOA board voted to expand our authority. I have documentation. No, you don't, Janet said coldly. I've already spoken with the other board members. There was never any vote. You've been acting entirely on your own, using your position to harass and intimidate people. This ends now. The lead officer stepped forward. Ms. Whitfield, filing a false police report is a misdemeanor offense. You reported an emergency situation that you knew was false, wasting valuable police resources. I'm citing you for false reporting and harassment. This is ridiculous, Karen sputtered. I know people. My brother-in-law is the sheriff, former sheriff, the officer corrected with a professional tone. He retired 3 years ago. Ma'am, you're looking at up to 6 months in jail and a $5,000 fine for the false report alone. That's not including potential civil charges Mr. Chen might file. Richard cleared his throat. Ms. Whitfield, effective immediately, you're terminated from your position on the HOA board. Pinnacle Property Group is severing all ties with you. You'll also be personally liable for any legal fees incurred by Mr. Chen and our company due to your actions. You can't do this, Karen protested, her voice rising to a near shriek. I've been HOA president for 8 years. The neighborhood needs me. The neighborhood needs someone who follows the law, Janet replied with a stern tone. Security will be at your home tomorrow to collect all HOA property, including computers, files and keys. If you attempt to access any HOA systems or property after today, you'll face additional charges. I watched as the weight of her situation finally hit Karen. Her shoulders slumped, and for the first time since I'd met her she seemed to shrink. The clipboard she'd been clutching like a lifeline fell from her hands. But I was just trying to maintain standards, she said weakly, to keep property values up by harassing law-abiding property owners and making up rules. I asked with a calm tone. By abusing whatever small authority you had. Ms. Whitfield, you turned a volunteer position meant to help a community into your personal dictatorship. The officer handed her the citation. Ms. Whitfield, you'll receive a court date in the mail. I strongly suggest you obtain legal counsel, and if you come within 500 feet of Mr. Chan or his property you'll be arrested immediately. As they led her back to Janet's car to be driven home, I heard her muttering about unfairness and how no one understood her vision for the community. But the reality was setting in. She faced criminal charges, thousands in fines, and the complete loss of the power she'd wielded like a weapon for years. Janet approached me with an apologetic expression. Mr. Chen, I can't tell you how sorry I am about this. We'll be reviewing all of Ms. Whitfield's actions as HOA president. I have a feeling we'll be reversing quite a few of her decisions. I appreciate that, I replied, but let's make sure the next board president understands the actual limits of HOA authority. As the cars pulled away and the ranch returned to its peaceful state, I picked up my now cold coffee and headed back to the porch. In the distance I could hear my horses neighing, blissfully unaware they'd been at the center of a power struggle between an overzealous HOA president and the man who ultimately controlled her professional fate. 3 weeks later I received 2 letters. The first was from the district attorney's office confirming that Karen Whitfield had pled no contest to filing a false report and harassment. She received 6 months probation, 100 hours of community service, and was ordered to pay $5,000 in fines plus my legal fees, which totaled another $8,000. The second letter was from the newly elected Willowbrook HOA board, formally apologizing for the previous administration's overreach. They discovered Karen had been systematically abusing her position for years, inventing rules and levying fines that went straight into an account she controlled. The forensic accountants were Still sorting through the mess, but it looked like she'd embezzled nearly $50,000 over her 8-year reign. I set both letters aside and walked out to check on my horses. They grazed peacefully in the afternoon sun, unregistered and perfectly content. Sometimes the best response to a bully isn't to fight back directly. Sometimes you just need to let them punch high enough that they hit something much bigger than they expected. In Karen's case, she'd swung at a ranch owner and hit her boss's boss instead. The last I heard, she'd moved 2 states away to live with her sister. Her reputation in Willowbrook completely destroyed. The HOA board position she treated like a throne had become her downfall, all because she couldn't resist harassing one ranch owner who knew exactly who to call when she crossed the line. Her $13,000 in combined fines and legal fees served as an expensive reminder that real authority comes with real accountability.